Welcome to the 2020 preseason primer webinar brought to you by the Advanced Fire Environment Learning Unit. We have 6 distinguished speakers presenting today, each having a long history of supporting fire management with their own unique skills. We apologize for the registration snafu this week, but we're really glad that you're all with us here today. Our speakers today are Tami Parkinson. She's a fire management specialist with Wildland Fire Management, RDNA. Chuck McHugh, Fire Spatial Analyst for the Rocky Mountain Research Station. Larry Van Bussum, the National Fire Weather Operations Coordinator for the National Weather Service. Darren Clabo, South Dakota State Fire Meteorologist. Brian Potter, Research Meteorologist with the Pacific Wildland Fire Sciences Laboratory. And Kit O'Connor, Research Ecologist with the Wildfire Risk Management Science Team. Thanks all for joining us. I'm Diane Rao. I'll be moderating and facilitating the webinar today. Wesley Hall is our host, and he will kick off our event and provide webinar support. Kicking off today's event is Wesley Hall, Chair of the Advanced Fire Environment Learning Unit and the Forest Fuels Specialist for the Lincoln National Forest. Welcome, Wes, and thanks for hosting this event for us.
Thank you, Diane, and thank you to all of our distinguished guests and presenters today. We couldn't do this without you guys. Basically, all that we do is support the community and seek out folks to present for us. So I appreciate that from everybody. So for those of you that may be new to what the Advanced Fire Environment Learning Unit is, basically we're a small group of professional experts desiring to seek solutions and provide a platform to share information to a larger unit. So we focus on fire behavior, fire currents, fire weather, and smoke, and risk assessment tools. But we really are a little bit larger than that. We really seek out to be that next step of learning. So for the folks that may have gone through 495 or 590 fire behavior classes, or even the IMETs, our line officers, agency administrators, we really try to provide that link to new upcoming technology tools, updates to the processes, lessons learned. We really try to strive to be that next step of learning, continued learning amongst all of the professionals and researchers and our peers. So that's us in a short snippet. We do have a website on NWCG for the Advanced Fire Environment Learning Unit. All of our information is stored there, so please visit that. And with that, we'll move back to Diane and introduce our first presenter.
Thanks, Wes. Let's get started with our speakers. Our first speaker is Tami Parkinson. She's going to share information about the Fire Behavior Field Reference Guide. Tami is a lead fire application specialist for the Wildland Fire Management RDNA, a liaison to the Forest Service National Line Officer Team, a member of the National Wildland Fire Cohesive Strategy Group, and a chair of the Fire Behavior Subcommittee. Tami provides incident support as a fire behavior analyst, a long-term analyst, and a strategic operational planner as well. Let's get the presenter role transition to her.
So today I'm going to highlight some of the reference tools and guides that the Fire Behavior Subcommittee has developed and is currently managing in support of research, practitioners, students of fire, academia, etc. So this presentation will be beyond just the Fire Behavior Field Reference Guide. It'll also hit on a few other nuggets of reference material. The Fire Environment poster that you see on the screen right now was developed to be a teaching tool or a skeleton for several NWCG trainings, specifically S131, Look Up, Look Down, Look Around, and S190. This document helps tie the pieces of the fire environment together to help initiate conversation around different components of the fire environment. Additionally, it is a great reference tool to review content or to be used as a tailgate safety reminder throughout the fire season. This poster will also be presented at the Atmospheric Meteorological Society Conference this spring by one of our incident meteorologists attending the conference. So on the poster, you see the sun, heat, humidity, and rain. You see the cloud plume indicators, wind speed, wind direction, topography, observe and anticipate the next change, and then fuel characteristics. And then we were really trying to drive home the point of identifying the next big change, trying to give people the ticklers of information. We are also working with the Wildland Fire Education and Training Collaborative, formerly known as WETEC, More information to come later about specifics to WeTech, but they are working to build some video documentation around the key concepts of the poster to further emphasize the dynamic nature of the fire environment. As more supporting documentation is developed, you will be able to access it off of the Fire Behavior Subcommittee webpage. The poster will be available for ordering in a printed format within the next month or so. It will also be hosted on the NWCG Fire Behavior Subcommittee page, PMS 439. We encourage you to have a copy posted in ready rooms and display it during classrooms and meeting rooms where fire behavior is a consideration. The poster link will be off of this page under the guidance section. An update from NWCG will come out via the MailChimp, the automated mailing notification. The next reference that I'm going to highlight is the Fire Behavior Field Reference Guide. You can either access it by going to the publication button underneath the Fire Behavior Subcommittee website, or you can perform a Google search and it will come up. A bit of history of how we got here with this guide, the FBFRG. For those of you who have been in the business a while, you likely remember the loose leaf 8x6 paper guide that was handed out as part of the 490 course. The last update was in 1992, and the last printed version through the cache was 2001. Risa Lang-Navarro provided considerable updates to the guide for the Northern Rocky students going through the 490 course. In 2010, the Fire Behavior Subcommittee had an external group perform a user analysis of the guide to see if it was worth updating, if people were using it, if it was a valid reference tool, and what references had changed, or was there new science or other techniques that we needed to include. The Fire Behavior Subcommittee procured funding through the NWCG budgeting process to initiate a complete overhaul of the reference. That process was initiated in 2010. The Fire Behavior Field Reference Guide is our comprehensive reference for instructors, students, practitioners, and the many others who have an interest in fire behavior concepts, tools, and practices. The FBFRG has been developed in tandem with the NWCG training group, along with the Fire Behavior Curriculum Oversight Group. This reference is being utilized as a cornerstone to some of the upper-level curriculum as an introduction to the content in 390, but heavily referenced in 490, 495, and 590. The document is meant to be a living document. It is more of a desk guide in that you will need connectivity to access the guide. We're in the process of developing a fire behavior pocket guide that will have the reference materials associated with field assessments and be available without connectivity. This document will be reviewed and updated biannually to make sure the references to science and technologies are current and applicable. If you have comments or suggestions regarding the guide, please provide that feedback to Robert, aka Zeke Zeal, or myself. On the next few slides, I'm going to highlight the level of detail within the guide. I encourage you to take some time to ponder what's in the guide, the content, and use it as a reference in your daily work as appropriate. There is a lot of information in here, and the intent was to work towards a one-stop shopping for analysts, fire managers, and students of fire to refer them and guide them as needed. On the weather section underneath the data resources are directions on how to construct a Fire Family Plus database from the RAW's history. This is a good tickler to have. This is the only public-facing site that provides the current guidance on how to build these data sets. Here are some additional highlights within the content for the weather section. You have climatology information for each of the specific GACs, drought assessments, critical fire weather with an overview of the hot, dry, windy index, forecast information, which includes a comprehensive set of links with short descriptions on all of the different forecast data from confidence, special wildland fire tools, and long-range forecast drivers. Here's a depiction of the surface fuel model selection. It's an integrated flowchart for the surface fuel selection. It helps integrate and simplifies fuel model alternatives. Canopy cover characteristics. This section is a good reference to help determine crown bulk density or crown base height of a stand. The fire assessment section of the guide provides a process for analysts to follow. It emphasizes that the process of an assessment begins well before the initiation of the models like Behave or WFDS. This also ties in with the poster that we reviewed at the beginning, trying to emphasize to firefighters as well as analysts that they need to prepare for their fire day ahead of an assignment so they have situational framework to add to incident detail as they learn it. Additionally, this section refers to people to the YouTube channel the Fire Behavior Subcommittee manages. Mark Finney provided some talking points around what makes a good analyst. It is worth listening to this video along with some of the others that are hosted on this site. Another highlight regarding the assessment and observation of fire from the Fire Use Handbook. This also is on the poster in the center on the bottom. The intent is to streamline our vocabulary so when people are describing what the fire is doing, they're using the right terminology. The poster will be used as a skeleton to the lower level fire behavior courses, gearing to the curriculum. To the poster, it references materials which will help streamline the vocabulary. The FBFRG is more conclusive with information, but the terminology is the same. So there is a tie between the different reference materials. I only showed you all a few of the sections within the guide. I barely scratched the surface on what all is in there. This is a great reference tool, and I encourage you to take some time to get to know the guide. And if you're teaching some classes, I further encourage you to use this information as the quote-unquote textbook or guiding reference for the course. On the last slide, I wanted to highlight the search function within the guide itself. On this particular one, I searched for the NASA sport, and it performs an exhaustive search on the guide. This is a powerful feature of the guide, and by having it hosted electronically, it allows for the capability that the users can use rather than flipping through a paper version. Firefighter math is still being used nationally and internationally to help firefighters refresh their math skills as they progress up through the course curriculum. This is a self-paced course that provides a good review of real-world math, from figuring out area of a fire, map scales, unit conversions, and conversion factors. This material has been requested and used within some of the high schools to really drive home the applicability of mathematics. The Canadian Fire Danger Rating System online training was also developed to be used as a refresher for those areas who either routinely send crews or resources to Alaska for support, or the Upper Lake states where they have found that the CFF-DRS to be a good tool for predicting fire behavior and spread. This is an online training course with some of the assessments built in to the curriculum. It is in the process of being ported over to the new learning portal. This online course is part of the University Corporation for Atmospheric Research, COMET-MED, online learning system that is sponsored by the National Weather Service. I put the link to the MED site there, and it is hosted, the 290 version is hosted in English and Spanish versions. This information that is hosted on the site is free. This particular course, S290, was developed in support of the National Weather Service Operational Forecaster Certification Program for their fire weather program management. It's an online alternative to the NWCG classroom offering that requires a week of in-class instruction, and it can serve as refresher content. The Fire Behavior Subcommittee was heavily involved in this online course development, and there are several references to this content within the existing, newer NWCG 290 course. I also want to put in a little tidbit that on this site, METED UCAR EDU, there are several other trainings hosted with regard to weather, GOES, data, satellite imagery, etc. This site here is the home for the Advanced Fire Environment Learning Unit webinars and a variety of other video content to support courses and resources identified above. The world of wildland fire. The Fire Behavior Subcommittee stood up an agreement with Northern Arizona University to tap into the resources of the Wildland Fire Education and Training Collaborative, WETEC. WETEC was formed in 2015 as a joint effort across academia, government institutions, and practitioners to provide multiple sources of media, including, but not limited to, books, videos, classroom exercises for the purposes of synthesizing the knowledge in fire science. New and existing media are used to enhance the learning experience by providing fire science educators and trainers with scientifically solid and peer-reviewed teaching tools using state-of-the-art materials that are free and accessible to all. WETEC is coordinated by a steering committee composed of university and federal agency representatives with a broad knowledge and experience with a wide variety of educational settings. The WETEC staff is currently composed of 2 part-time employees at NAU, Northern Arizona University, with responsibilities of coordinating and video script writing. The Fire Behavior Subcommittee is working with this group to develop videos to support the fire environment poster, as well as other curriculum updates or training materials. Again, all of these videos are free, and they're a great refresher for some of your folks coming through the fire behavior curriculums. Additionally, the Fire Behavior Subcommittee is in the process of evaluating and providing a full revision of the old Appendix B, the document on the left. The and revising it to be the NWCG Fire Behavior Pocket Guide. This will be the field assessment reference, so it won't be as comprehensive as the Fire Behavior Field Reference Guide, the FBFRG that I showed earlier, but it will provide enough information for field-going personnel. This document is meant to be part of the teaching tools and curriculum to help provide consistency and continuity with the reference materials and guiding documentation. NWCG is working on doing an overhaul to how the training is developed and updated and managed. As part of that process, they're transitioning away from student guides and using the reference guides or tools the students would use in the field and using these products as instructional mediums. As I mentioned earlier, the FBFRG is introduced to the students in 390 and incorporated into the training for upper level. This pocket guide would be introduced in the 190 and 290 levels to help entry-level firefighters with fire behavior assessments and field reconnaissance and reviews. In summary, here's a snapshot of the Fire Behavior Subcommittee. You can link to us off of the committee's webpage underneath the Fire Environment Committee. Thank you for your time today.